It's the ultimate introduction of horror for children and teenagers. That's right, today we are looking at scary stories to tell in the dark. Let's get into it. Welcome back to BG's Books. I'm Mr. BG, and today I will be reviewing Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, collected by Alvin Schwartz. So, I've been told to read Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark for a long time. In fact, it's been around since about 1981. That's when it was published. And if you grew up in the 80s or 90s, like if you were a child or a teenager in those decades, you probably read this yourself. It is like what got a lot of people into horror. It's like gateway horror, I guess you could say, into like the more modern stuff like Stephen King or like anything else that's horror related. But yeah, so many people have said that this is what got them into horror, and so my editor basically begged me to read it for months now, and so I finally read it, and here I am to review it for you. So anyway, yeah, this is the first in a series of 3. It is followed by more Scary Stories and Scary Stories 3, More Tales to Chill Your Bones. But yeah, so I have the first one here. And basically, I don't think they're written by Alvin Schwartz. It just says they're kind of collected by Alvin Schwartz. So I'm not going to like give him credit for writing them. I'm just going to say that he collected them. Anyway, but yeah. So, of course, like a lot of books in this kind of genre, there are, of course, stories that go along with this. And so we will get to those right now. So let's get right into the stories. Alright, so I got my table of contents pulled up here. And so our first chapter is Ah. And stories in here are The Big Toe, The Walk, What Do You Come For, Me, Ty Doty, Walker, and A Man Who Lived in Leeds, An Old Woman, All Skin and Bone. So those are the stories of the first chapter. And I can't really tell you what happens in all of these. Some I don't remember every single one, so I'll just kind of recap what happens in The Big Toe because that's my favorite one of this chapter. And so basically in The Big Toe, this kid finds a toe in his garden. He takes it to his parents. They eat it in soup, and then later that night when he goes to sleep, there's someone looking for their toe. So kind of a little gross, but you know, kind of all like that. All right, and then so moving on to the second chapter is he heard footsteps coming up the cellar stairs. And the stories we get in this one are The Thing, Cold as Clay, The White Wolf, The Haunted House, and Guess. And so my favorite story from this chapter was The Haunted House. It's basically about a priest that goes into a haunted house, finds the ghost of a dead woman, and she basically says that she cannot rest until he buries her bones. And so that's what he does. Nothing much more to say about that. And then chapter 3, the next one, is They Eat Your Eyes, They Eat Your Nose. And the stories in this collection are The Hearse Song, The Girl Who Stood on a Grave, A New Horse, Alligators, Room for One More, The Wendigo, The Dead Man's Brains, May I Carry Your Basket? And those are those stories. My favorite of which is The Girl Who Stood on a Grave. Basically, it's this girl who heard a story about like someone dying after standing on a grave after midnight or whatever. And so she decides to do it, and then, you know, things go from there. So yeah, that was chapter 3. And then moving on to chapter 4, it is titled Other Dangers. And the stories we get in this one are The Hook, The White Satin Evening Gown, High Beams, and The Babysitter. And my favorite story from this one was White Satin Evening Gown. And yeah. I was just making sure I said the title of the first chapter, which is Ah. So, yeah. Anyway, the White Satin Gown, I think it's this girl who like puts on this white satin gown to go to prom or something, and then she ends up dead, and then, you know, things go from there. And then the final chapter, chapter 5, is also titled Ah, you know, like the first one. And so the stories in this version of Ah are The Viper, The Attic, The Slithery D, Aaron Kelly's Bones, Wait Till Martin Comes, and The Ghost with the Bloody Fingers. I'm going to be honest, I don't really remember any of the stories from this one. I'll just say that The Ghost with the Bloody Fingers is kind of the most, like, I don't know, it has the most interesting title, so I'll just say that one's my favorite. But yeah, there isn't really a lot to talk about for these, but those were the chapters, and those were the stories inside of those chapters, so that is really all we have to talk about on this. So overall, what did I feel about Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark? Well, I thought it was a very interesting look at other horror authors. It's like, as I said, Alvin, Schwartz more just like collected these, so they were probably around for a long time before Alvin Schwartz got to them. But I thought it was a pretty solid collection of scary stories. They're not too scary to like scare children, but they're also not like the cheap scary stories that are like terrible and aren't scary at all. They're unsettling, but not too unsettling, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I really enjoyed this collection. Of course, the size of the book is very short. You can literally get through all of them in like maybe an hour like I did. So I think Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark was a very fun collection of horror short stories over the years. And I definitely look forward to reading Scary Stories 2 or more Scary Stories and Scary Stories 3. So yeah, overall I like this collection. I don't really have any complaints. I just say that some of the stories aren't as memorable as other ones. Like, as I said, chapter 5 didn't have the most memorable stories of all of them, but the first 4 chapters had some pretty memorable stories. But anyway, yeah, so please go read Scary Stories if you have not already. It is very popular and for good reason, and I recommend that you all try it if you have not already. But so yeah, please go read Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. But yeah, guys, that is the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed my review for Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, collected by Alvin Schwartz. And I also forgot to mention that before this video, I actually found a toe in my yard, and so I like put it in a soup and ate it. It was actually pretty good, despite how disgusting it sounds. But anyway, yeah, as I said, this is the end of the video. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below. I'm still getting very close to 400 subscribers, so I would love it if you guys could help me reach that. But anyway, I've been Mr. BG. This has been BG's Books, and I will see you guys in the next.
My toe.
Did you guys hear this?
Where is my toe?
Uh-oh, it's closer now.
Where is my toe? You have it!